just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting till I see God or a checkered flag.
Welcome back to episode 6 of Racing Thoughts, an IndyCar podcast. I'm your host, Megan Dennis.
And I'm Meg Taylor.
So this week we are gearing up for another race week, this time going to Lexington, Ohio, mid-Ohio. Also, at the time of recording, happy Independence Day to all our listeners, because it will be the 4th of July when this comes out. Yeah, that's that. I guess, as always, kind of kicking off into news of the week. A few things as of this morning that don't really have a lot more to go along with them at this time, but I think interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of comes out in the coming days. First thing I have is not new of this morning. It's just kind of a fact of the matter. So Alex was nominated for an EPSI Award, which is an award produced by ESPN since 1993. This is to recognize individual and team athletic achievement and other sports-related performances. So he's been nominated for Top Driver. Voting for that closes July 11th. I don't know who he's up against other than Max Verstappen. There's 2 other drivers. I think one from NASCAR. No offense to them. I don't remember who they are. But voting does end July 11th for that. So if you're interested in that, we can link it back on our stories, or you can just go Google it, look on ESPN, go to Chip Ganassi's Instagram page, they have it posted as well. That is kind of the first bit of interesting news in the world of IndyCar. Second thing kind of ties into silly season, and as always, there's silly season happening. So came out as of, I believe it was yesterday, Andretti has said no to running a 4th car in limited capacity for the rest of the year. Apparently Sauber had kind of reached out trying to see if they could find a spot for our boy Teddy Porkchop, but Andretti said, we're happy with our 3-car program at this moment. We are not going to run a 4th car this year. So
but they said they're not running a 4th car this year. So does that mean maybe next year?
In the land of delusion, I think there's a chance.
Delulu is the Salulu. That's what I'm going with.
And then also when it comes to Teddy Porkchop, he was seen / documented touring RLL this week. So that is, I think, something to watch and see, is that a possibility? Which ties into the news that broke this morning that unofficially that I think will know a lot more about come tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So by the time you're hearing this, you will probably already know the news. As of Tuesday morning, we do not, but it is rumored that Christian Lundgaard will be joining McLaren for the 2025 season, bringing Hy-Vee with them as a sponsor, which is beneficial for McLaren with the talk that Arrow is taking a step back and potentially removing itself completely as the title sponsor. What does this mean? We don't know. I fear the worst, that it does mean that Alex Rossi is going to be out of his seat. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. Hey, when's Rossi's contract announcement coming? And I guess it could go a couple of ways. It could be that it's not coming and Christian Lundgaard's taking the seat, or what I'm hoping is more likely, but doesn't seem going to be the case, that McLaren's going to run a 4th car next year, and that we'll keep Rossi, we gain Christian. Win-win for everybody. Like I said, by the time this comes out, you listening will probably know. We don't. I guess stay tuned, but it's not looking great for those of us in the camp of Alexander Rossi.
I really hope that that's not true. And don't get me wrong, I love Christian Lundgaard. I think he's a great driver, and I think he would do well in McLaren. But I love Rossi, and I love Rossi and McLaren, and I don't want to see him out. So I'm really hoping that means that McLaren's going to get a 4th car.
And I do think I read somewhere at some point they have a long-term plan of they want to run 5 cars. So maybe next season's the time that they're wanting to put one in. I don't know. That's, I guess, optimism on my part. Like I said, we're supposed to know more tomorrow. There's also supposed to be an announcement coming at 3 p.m. today. I believe that's probably going to be in regards to the Dale Coyne 51 car. And maybe we're going to see, as we talked about last week in our rumor, of it's going to be Teddy Porkchop driving, the rest of the road street courses for the rest of the year. I don't know. I guess we will know in a few hours what that entails, and we'll post that to our Instagram and everything. But we're working in the world of rumors and nothing but at the moment, with a lot seeming to be coming in the next 24 hours.
This is going to be a busy time.
Yeah.
Silly season is Certainly living up to its name.
And I don't know. I will of course touch on it if it does mean that Alex is out of a seat, but I don't love it because I don't know where it means he'll go.
Yeah. At this point, it's just musical chairs with who's available, what seats are available, who's going where. No one's really sure of anything. So I don't want to see him go into that crazy market that's just, it feels like a free for all. So I really hope it's not true. Not to say that, again, not to say that I dislike Christian, but I just like Rossi more.
That's the best way to put it. I just like Rossi more, and him and Pato really work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. We will see. We will know, and I guess worst comes to worst, we'll have an emergency podcast to discuss things if we have to. But
Whoa. Let's hope not.
let's hope. That's where we're at right now. That's kind of news for the week. It's not a ton of stuff. It's a lot of, I guess we will know, but that is the bits and pieces we have at the moment.
Yeah.
Watch the space, watch the socials. We'll keep an ear to the ground and pass on anything.
Yep. So I think that's all for all of our gossip for the week.
And I guess tying into, news for the week though, it's a new era of IndyCar. We have hybrid engines
We
coming
do.
very soon.
Yes, we have the hybrid systems, which are going to be implemented this weekend for the first time, and it is going to be run for the rest of the season. I did a pretty deep dive into how the hybrid systems are structured, how they work. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, we have like a little bit of a bonus tech talk episode in case you wanted to hear my lovely voice talk at you for way longer than you probably ever want to hear it. But I do touch on like the main components that have changed. I touched on how teams kind of are implementing it, talked about like the challenges that they've had, and more importantly, I've also talked about the drivers' reactions to it. So if you want to hear all of that info, go ahead, listen to that episode, come on back. But in case you don't, I'm going to give you very very quick rundown of it. So basically, key thing to know is that this whole system was developed by Honda, Chevy, and Indy. So all three of them were collaborating together to make the system work, and they've been working on it since 2019. So there's a lot of time that has passed between the start of the idea and the implementation that is going to happen this weekend. Honda and Chevy kind of broke it down into two main components that they're going to talk about that they developed themselves. I'm not going to, again, go really deep into it, but do understand that Honda developed the energy storage system, which is that ESS, and that is going to be used for like regenerative braking, short-term energy storage, and burst mode power delivery. And then Chevy has developed the motor generator unit, which is the MGU, and that serves as the main power source when starting the car, when driving, and it assesses the engine during acceleration. The thing that I do want to highlight with the MGU though, because that is going to have an impact, hopefully, if it works the way that we want it to, the MGU is going to impact like the full race conditions, because with the MGU, it alleviates the need for a battery. So cars can be started at will instead of needing outside assistance to restart the car if they stall out. So the idea is that with that, there's going to be less full course cautions. So hopefully that works out and that truly works. So yeah, that's kind of a brief overview of what the differences are. It is different than push to pass, but it is a similar deployment. The constraints on the hybrid energy that you would get as a boost when using it is going to be determined by the track. And so IndyCar is going to determine it based off of the length of the track and whatever it is. So it's not the same as push to pass where you have a certain number of seconds that you can only use. You can have a certain amount of energy like created within the regen process, but it's different based off of the track length. So it's not going to be a consistent thing that the drivers are going to know every single time. Yeah, some of the drivers like it, some of them don't. It really just depends on how the drivers have been testing it. And I think that's a really big component into how it's going to kind of affect the racing and the driving and everything. Like Joseph had made a really good point in saying that he has been doing a lot of the testing because Honda had picked Penske to kind of use their resources, use their money, and he's been testing it for a long time. So he's very comfortable in it already, whereas other teams didn't necessarily have that luxury. So they've done done a lot less testing. And then you have Pato being, I said this in the other episode, but you have Pato being a moron, and he's fully admitted to not using it during the testing days. And he's like not thrilled with it. But in my eyes, like, dude, you haven't tested it to its full capacity. You're not really kind of figuring out where it's best used. So it'll be interesting. And again, if you want to hear all of my thoughts, feelings, opinions, go ahead and listen to the other episode. So that's all I got for hybrids, in case you have any other questions, comments, concerns.
I'm going to admit I really wasn't listening because we have breaking news.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So, as of 10 minutes ago from AP News, so this is a reputable news source, I'm just going to read the quote. "We talked for months," Peter Rossi told AP. "We just quite simply couldn't come to terms on a lot of the bits, and that's okay." The driver change confirmed Tuesday's leak as Rossi was actively testing a gateway outside St. Louis. McLaren gave AP a statement on his behalf. "My time at Air McLaren, while it's only been short 2 seasons, has been rewarding in many ways. I'm grateful to have been part of the team's internal growth. The number 7 crew is fantastic, and I built a lot of long-lasting friendships within the team," Rossi added, noting he had multiple conversations with team leaders over the past several months. "The mutual decision to part ways is amicable. I'm very confident with current decisions in the paddock to land a new spot. I'll have good news to follow soon, and meanwhile I'm focusing on a top 5 finish in the 2024 championship and a strong conclusion to my time at Ohio." Christian Lundgaard is taking that seat for next year. I hate this.
I hate it so much. I'm not saying that to you, Christian. Oh no. Oh. We're both just sitting here in silence, like,
Probably don't make good podcast audio, but like,
oh, well, that's very sad.
I mean, positively, it does sound like he has a.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna have good news coming soon." Like, I feel like typically if you're not landing somewhere, but
I don't know. Maybe it's the trauma that One Direction put on me of soon. I don't believe soon ever. Like my man.
change since Alex Blow's contract breach. Just
Being a McLaren fan is exhausting, guys.
I said it to somebody this morning when it was just rumors where I'm like, I love you, but I don't know how much more of this I got in me. Like, I just Andretti seems stable. Maybe I'll go hang out with them or something.
Don't say that, because now it's jinxed. Don't say that.
Am I the problem here? I can drive or something happens.
Oh man, it is tough. So I guess forget everything we said about it just being rumors. Rossi's going somewhere, and Christian Lundgaard's coming in.
So I guess come 2025, welcome Christian Lundgaard. I hope you look good in orange.
It's papaya.
Not right now, it's not.
Yeah, this is why I'm a fan of drivers, not teams.
Yep.
Can never have anything stable.
We can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things. Sorry. I wasn't listening to that song earlier.
I had a hybrid related question. Mine have plummeted immensely.
Mine are minimal now. Well, I guess my biggest takeaway is I am always going to root for Rossi, no matter where he goes. I love him as a driver. I love his personality outside of driving. So wherever you end up for 2025, Rossi, I will support you no matter what. So sad to see you go. But, I understand contract negotiations are tough. So if you weren't getting what you needed out of it, good for you for finding it elsewhere.
Put Rossi and Logan in the Prima car together, and I will be the biggest Prima fan you've ever seen on the planet.
Oh, that could be good. Again, Delulu.
If we can't have what I want, then give me another option that will still make me happy.
Was Rossi ever tied to Prima when he was doing like his Formula One feeder stuff?
I don't think so, because he didn't do Formula 2, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it was GT2, because he and Connor Daly, that's how they became friends, was him and Connor raced GT2 together. But they have talked about how, they want an experienced driver.
He was tied to Formula Renault from 2010 to 2012.
I don't even know. Like, well, I guess at least we got answers while during the podcast, so we don't have to wait a week for our reactions when
Yeah, and
it
you
would
get the
be
most
old news at that point.
yeah, you get the most unfiltered reactions ever of just vibe killer.
I'm just proud of myself for I almost cut you off. I'm just like, no, stop talking. I gotta tell you something.
Well, appreciate it, pal.
Anyways, I'm talking about hybrids. That
Okay.
not about hybrid tech. It's literally just your opinion. This is something I saw someone maybe on Twitter talking about. So with the hybrid engines, the idea of doing standing starts for the road courses instead of the rolling starts. And I was curious what your thoughts and or opinion on the matter is.
I don't know. I mean, I think here's the thing is a lot of what has been talked about with the hybrid systems is they want to try and reduce the number of like cautions that happen. And so I don't know whether or not shifting to a standing start is a good idea, but at the same time the rolling starts don't necessarily have the best track record either. I think yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the rolling start just because it is so different, but I think maybe also having like a standing start could make it much more clear as to when the start happens. Because even as a viewer, sometimes like, oh, I see like green flag is waving. I don't necessarily know when they're supposed to go. So I don't know. I don't know if the hybrid would have an impact on that at all.
I just thought, but I'd throw it out there.
Yep. I am not too proud to admit when I don't know the answer to that question. So I have no idea.
I guess all we really got left is to talk about Mid Ohio and
Yeah.
our upcoming weekend. So, located in Lexington, Ohio, halfway between Columbus and Cleveland. I think that is hence the reason why it is called Mid Ohio. It is a 2.258-mile road course, features 13 turns, 80 laps. Don't have a ton of information on it, but Alex Flo won 2023. Dixon came in second. He has won 6 times at this track, so Dixon is, I guess, one to watch when it comes to that one. Will Power has taken 5 poles, so he holds the pole record at this course. And with that, Penske and Chip Ganassi each have 12 wins, so they are tied with holding the most team records for wins at this one. I do think with a combination of various things, this race is probably not going to be one where like you look at what's happened in years past and you draw upon that. Of course, we have the hybrid engines coming in, which is we don't know. We're not going to know until, after Sunday, what does this mean? But also it was repaved. So this is first year with a repave to add into anything you knew about the track beforehand is also now gone. So
yeah, and there was a lot of talks with drivers after Milwaukee Mile testing, and they were talking about like Milwaukee Mile was also repaved, and then they were doing the testing of the hybrid engines on top of that too. A lot of what they had mentioned in terms of tires is that you're not getting any degradation, which you would think would be a good thing, but at the same time, it completely alters your race strategy. And again, another thing that I talk about in our bonus episode with the hybrids is that teams are now figuring out the best way to deploy this hybrid energy because they've never used it in a race scenario. They've only ever done it on testing. They've only ever done simulators with it. So it's like, all right, we're really putting it to the test, kind of trial by fire with it. And so the hybrid energy gives you that additional horsepower boost, but it's figuring out when to best deploy it, figuring out when the best time for regen is, and we don't really know. So I think the chaos that we're going to be seeing with Mid Ohio as a result of these hybrid engines is going to kind of carry through the rest of the season as well. I think this is just going to be the start of a whole lot of chaos here. So I'm excited. I can't wait.
honestly, I think especially if it leads to more exciting racing and who knows, new winners that you really wouldn't expect, even better. I think it'll be fun. So
Gonna be a great time.
it will be fun. We already have the schedule posted up on our Instagram, so I'm not gonna bother to re-look that up and read it out, but it's there for you to go pursue at your leisure.
Who you got for your podium for this race?
I think the big thing is we don't know. I guess as you touched on, I think Joseph Newgarden is probably one that there's a strong likelihood he's going to do very well. He's had experience with the hybrids, probably more than just about anybody. He seems to be doing well. Colton Herta has tested the hybrid a lot too.
Yeah.
And seems to have done fairly well with it. So Colton, and I mean, it's not gonna, I don't think, change his race car from having a really good race car that he's had all season. So I think Colton I could easily see up there. And clearly you can't count Scott Dixon out of it. I mean, this is his track. So
Yeah.
I like that podium, but I think that's the combination I'm gonna go with. Newgarden, Herta, Dixon in some order.
Yeah, I think good realistic one. I'm gonna stick with my usual. We're gonna go Pato, Rossi, and Kyle. I want to see them do well. It's gonna be hilarious to admit after just saying that that was the podium that I want. I don't think Pato's gonna do well. I mean, I've said it. I think I said it here, and I really talk about it in our other episode. But I don't think Pato's gonna utilize the hybrid the way that is going to be the most effective. He seems to be the one that is most like giving the most pushback on it. So I don't see him doing well. And I mean, he's just had a streak of bad luck in races recently for whatever reason. I don't know. I think to your point that you said about Colton of him having a very good race car, I think the same about Kyle. I think he's had a very good race car.
Mr. Consistency.
Yep, Mr. Consistency. He's had a very good car. I think the thing that I am looking for the most when it comes to Kyle is going to be his strategy decisions. Because I've talked about it on the podcast in previous episodes of like, he makes some really good strategic calls. And unfortunately, a lot of these calls are kind of being canceled out by like ill-timed cautions or other racing incidents or whatever. But I think he's going to be one to watch on how to implement the hybrid best.
And then, I don't know, I would like to see some surprises. Maybe Marcus Ericsson, wrong Marcus, Marcus Armstrong has a really good weekend. I would like to see, no offense, Marcus Ericsson, you're just not that high on my list because I'm sure you listen to the podcast.
He totally does.
And then David Malukas, as you said, I guess in the hybrid episode, like he likes the hybrid. So
Yeah, he's been doing a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he has a very good grasp on how the system works because he did almost all of it, if not the like just the majority of the testing from Arrow McLaren, who does have a major part in the hybrid development. And he did a lot of the simulator stuff. So I think he has a good grasp on it. So I would agree with you on that. Plus, I would love to see him do well. Just coming back with Meyer Shank too.
100%. Do you have a new driver in the 51 car? Tristan, I'm not going to try to say your last name. I'm really not sure how to say it.
Sorry,
Crofton?
Tristan.
Sorry, Tristan. I don't know. I don't know anything about him other than I think he's blonde. That's it.
It's not super important.
It might be.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out this weekend.
Standings have not changed since we went through them last week, so not going to bother to go through that one again. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else.
Yeah, I think this is just going to be short, sweet episode this time. Finally.
We are a breaking news podcast, in case you didn't know.
That brings us to the end.
Follow us Instagram and now on TikTok, Racing Thoughts Podcast on both. I guess we'll be back next week to recap Mid-Ohio, bring you whatever silly season news I'm sure will be coming out with that. And
also kind of recapping how the hybrids worked for the first time as well. That'll be interesting to talk about after seeing how they actually work.
And then we get 2 races the following weekend with the double Iowa races.
Lots going on.
All right, I think that's it.
We'll see you for next episode.
Happy Independence Day, y'all.
Bye.